Welcome into the Rant, everybody. 1,000, 1,000. Did you see that last play in the New Orleans-Dallas game? New Orleans leading Dallas right now at the half on Sunday Night Football, 9-3. You're telling me that fade pass by Teddy Bridgewater that fluttered slowly out of bounds only took 2 seconds off the clock?
And so the clock should stop at the point that the ball hits the turf out of bounds, right?
The old Colt McCoy, Nebraska Big 12 championship thing. That might have taken a full 4. It definitely wasn't 2 seconds. Hey, welcome into the Rant.
Sketchy timekeeping
Caden
right there.
McFarland, Tulsa World's Bill Haston, brought to you by Jack Kissy Ford. And our guy Jacob still hasn't found a collared shirt. Hey, buddy.
And I won't.
How we doing?
I don't have to. It's online. We're casual. I'm good. A little tired, but not as tired as you were. You were in Stillwater last night, right? You both were, right?
Yeah.
How tired are you guys?
I mean, it was as storm delays go, I think we got off easy.
Yes.
72 minutes.
Much worse.
Yeah. So I think since we're both veterans of the 2011 Tulsa-Oklahoma State game, Jacob, we can get through that.
Believe it or not, and I don't mean to derail us, but I was at the OU Florida State game that night in 2011, and I was telling Bill Blankenship just a couple weeks ago, everybody still talks about the OSU Tulsa game that happened that night. No, if you told me 8 years ago that Florida State and OU were going to stage this top 5 matchup in September in Tallahassee, and it would be won on a long pass from Landry Jones to Kenny Stills in the final few minutes, and 8 years later, all anybody would talk about is the TU-OSU game because of that delay, I never would have believed you. But anyway.
OU was number 1 at that time.
They were.
Yeah.
That's right. But the season, sputtered. And Jacob,
let's continue with the Rant,
Get us going, buddy.
Please, come on. The best thing you guys saw in football this weekend, Caden, go first.
How about Josh Jacobs? I'll break out it's 295 yards rushing so far this season. He had 79 today in a victory, and that is the most yards by a Raiders rookie in the first 4 games of their career. Tulsa's own Josh Jacobs off to a nice start with the Oakland Raiders.
Look at that move.
I think that's pretty good stuff. Bill.
That is nice. My honorable mention would be that Kennedy Brooks emerged apparently unscathed from one of the dirtier plays I've seen in a long time on the sideline. The Texas Tech kid takes a dirty shot at his knees. Came out of that okay. But the best thing I saw, the only time I held my breath, Jacob, all weekend in a football sense was the 2-point play.
That was
when Mac Brown tried to get a 2-point conversion to beat
What in the world do we make of this Clemson team that absolutely took apart Notre Dame and then took apart Alabama on its way to a national championship last year? Quarterback back, running back. A lot of guys back. I know the defense sent a lot of guys to the NFL, but they still had a ton of talent.
Right.
North Carolina, Bill. What?
No, well, hey, there's undeniably Mac's got them much more competitive, way more competitive. So
went for 2, and I thought it was the right thing to do.
At home,
Kelly Hines said no, by the way, and right away on Twitter, she was after me saying
no. She was so nervous about it she couldn't even watch the screen. But yeah, that's the only time, Jacob, I held my breath all weekend was for that play in that moment. That could have been national picture changing had they converted.
For sure. So they dropped from 1 to 2, but still one of the 2 best teams in all college football. Let's talk about Oklahoma State. We mentioned you guys were both in Stillwater yesterday. Chuba Hubbard, 296 yards of rushing, 6th most single-game rushing in OSU history. Bill, how special can Hubbard's season be this year?
Well, I keep thinking, man, you gotta take a step back on his workload, and yet Gundy just keeps pumping him the football. How special can it be?
Yes.
2,000-yard season. I mean, he's on pace for that. If he can hold it up and stay healthy. He's averaging 26 carries a game, guys. Okay. The previous high for any Gundy tailback ever was 21 carries a game. Joseph Randall. So we went from the extreme last year of wondering why Justice Hill wasn't getting more carries to this extreme of can this guy really be sustained and still be productive at the 300 carries or beyond level. So we'll see. But yeah, Jacob, if he stays healthy, let me tell you, I think Gundy senses the obvious. What I think is the obvious is that he's going to the league, don't you think?
Yeah, of course.
So
why not use them all up now?
Well,
hey,
I don't think it's
pumping it to both him and Wallace yesterday like they're going to the NFL tomorrow.
He's never ridden 2 players. Gundy has it like he goes with these guys.
Bill, what was your title on your column though yesterday? Your headline.
Oh, you talking about the
Heisman?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd said he made a 296-yard dash into the Heisman conversation. There's no doubt about it. He's not the favorite. Tua's the favorite, right? He's got to be now. Well, Jalen Hurts and Tua, which is mind-boggling to think about. But, but he's got to be in the conversation. Now, whether that means he's a finalist ultimately, we'll see, but it's undeniable. You can't look the other way on this guy.
Here's the thinking behind the question for me. Just for kicks, this morning I looked up Barry Sanders, 1988, first 5 games.
Sure.
He had 1,002 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns. Chuba's at 938 and 10. Mm-hmm. All right, so not close when it comes to touchdowns. But Barry had run for 1,000 yards at this point in the greatest season any college football player has ever had.
Right.
And Chuba is basically 60 yards behind.
Yeah.
Really special is the answer, right? What we are seeing, last night I thought because it was a slow start for him. Mm-hmm. They were mostly going to Wallace early on. It was a slow start. And when he gets out in the open field, Bill, this stuff is breathtaking.
Yeah,
and here's what I took away. I was up in the press box early, came down for the end, and it was just this really organic thing. They thought he was done for the night, and he got a standing ovation. You remember that moment?
Sure.
They were down near the goal line just trying to run out the clock. He gets a standing ovation. Well, he came back in for another carry or two, and the students began chanting his name, Chuba, Chuba. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, he's not going to have the season Barry Sanders had in 1988. I know it's foolish for us to ever even bring up Barry's name because, like I said, greatest season in college football history. Not just OSU history, but college football history. But I bet it started something like this, where the expectations at the start of the year, you knew you had a good back, but you didn't know you had a Heisman contender. We didn't know Chuba Hubbard. We all had a sneaking suspicion this guy would have a special year. Did we think he was going to run for 940 yards in 5 games? Did we know he was the kind of guy you could pump it to, 69 plus 25, however many times that is over the course of 3 games, where he could just be an incredible workhorse, but also the best home run hitter in the entire country? And he's just stacking one special performance on top of the other, just like Barry did back in '88. And he's becoming, I hate to say fan favorite, because look, OSU's got a great fan base. They're all fan favorites, if you will. But I think they got a special place in their heart already for this kid. It's still September. To be chanting his name at the end of yesterday's game, it's becoming a really, really special season is my answer.
Well, nobody, Barry Sanders opened that season with a kickoff return for a touchdown, the first touch of the year. So, but nobody could have seen or could have expected, that Sanders would have that kind of season, or that he'd end up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or that he's considered by a lot of people to be the best running back in the history of the sport, and by some people to be the best player ever. So, we'll see. I just hope he stays healthy. I hope Jalen Hurts stays healthy. I hope all these stars we have around here stay healthy, just to see what it looks like at the end of the season.
It's
and so we have an
epic
bedlam.
An embarrassment of riches. You know, OSU entered the top 25 today at number 21.
Yeah.
Right behind them at 22 is Wake Forest. And I got to admit, I haven't seen a whole lot of Wake Forest this year. Right. But compare the skill talent on OSU's roster and what those guys are capable of. This is not... I think maybe our expectations for these guys are a little bit too low, to be honest. When you look at what they've got at the top, I know defensively, and we'll get to that in a minute. Look, this is Spencer Sanders is just a freshman, so you can't say that's the best trio in the country.
Right.
But they've got the best running back and wide receiver duo in the country, right? Like, is there any denying that? For me, Tylan Wallace is the best I've seen, and Chuba Hubbard is establishing himself week after week as probably the best out there, and that is not a small thing.
How about the catch Wallace made on the sideline, on the Cowboys sideline?
Everything he does, the way he blocks, the way he got up from the catch along the sideline where he took an incredible hit, the way he competes, the way he runs his routes, the way he snags the ball in traffic, everything Tylan Wallace does is next level. And look, Gundy was pumping it to him yesterday like he's going to the NFL tomorrow, and he is ready to be in the NFL today. He is unbelievable.
Well, what I like about Wallace, among other things, is that if it's 3rd and 3, he'll catch a 4-yard throw and get knocked down, and he hands the ball to the official. And he seems just as happy to do that as he is to make these unbelievable. But when he caught that ball on the sideline, perfect timing on the jump. A really nice throw. It's a really good throw.
He times everything perfectly.
That's right. And so he makes a very difficult catch. He gets the foot down, and then he gets exploded by the defender on a clean hit. Totally clean hit. But he just Wallace jumps right up and runs back to the line of scrimmage and
does.
ready to go again. And so you're right. I mean,
He's a
this
Gundy
is
guy, man.
This is you know, in regard to Hubbard, there's only been two since the year 2000. There's only been 2 non-quarterbacks win the Heisman, and really, you know what? Not a whole lot of running backs have even been finalists for the last 20 years. So it's going to have to be a super special season, Jacob, for him to get a trip to New York out of it. But I mean, if he's a 2,000-yard back,
He's on pace for more than 2,400, by the way.
and it helps too that he scores style points the way he does. He's a beautiful player to watch, great highlights, and that's part of the deal. It's not just the yardage; it's how you look doing it. And so
Now they got to win 10 for him to.
Oh, I would
to be
agree
a
with that.
Serious high, just the way the thing's voted now. It's different than it was in '88 or even '98.
Or 56.
I mean, you got to be a real contender typically, or the numbers have to be just, he'd have to run for 2,500 yards, which I know that's the trend right now, but none of us think he's actually going to be able to keep up that pace.
Well,
boy, if he does, though.
Well, let's keep in mind too. He's at 938, and he had a week off because he had 8 for 44 against McNeese.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I mean, he's gotten these yards against Oregon State on the road, Tulsa, a
right.
good Tulsa defense.
We
on
did
the
a
road.
lot of gushing for a team that only scored 26 points yesterday. So we'll just quickly say the red zone stuff does have to get cleaned up. That's 2 weeks in a row.
yeah.
I think they will get it sorted out. Freshman quarterback, I think that's a big part of it. But
Well, I think it starts
what's wrong
up
with
front.
the fade to Thailand? I'm sure they're bracketing, but
I don't know. I love the use of the cowboy back, but when you get you have that many trips inside the 10, Jacob, and you're kicking field goals, yeah, that'll get you beat later on.
For sure. And one more thing on Chuba Hubbard. Caden, you asked Sean Gleason what makes him so special. It's because he's so mature. He texted Gleason and said, hey, I'll take the ball 30 times or I'll take the ball 5 times. So that shows a lot about what he means to this team so
Tough kid,
going
man.
forward, for sure. Let's talk about the defense. 13 points allowed versus K-State. Are they starting to show their true colors? Is this where they're starting to go? Bill, maybe talk
They
a
were
little bit
very
about that.
physical last night. Kansas State, Jacob, came in, converted on 58% of the third downs, and they were 1 of 13 last
How about
night.
that?
Yeah, that was that kind of. I just thought, if OSU had won this game 56-38, you win, and that's great. I think it's more impressive and more uplifting for everybody in the
point.
program to put a skin on the wall that looked like that. You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Where you really, your defense was a reason why you won the game instead of you just outscored the other side. You had a really nice. In fact, think about this. Now, K-State's not loaded with weapons, but they got a nice team, and Thompson's a lot better so far with Chris Kleiman, I think, than I had seen him in previous seasons. So, but this, I don't know, was this Jim Knowles' best game in a year and a half?
I can't think of one better. I mean, I guess Boise would have been really good, but if we're going to limit it to
That's
Big
right.
12 play,
That's a good
I'm going to
call.
say absolutely, if we're limiting to Big 12 play, this is his best performance. And I think, he's admitted we brought too much pressure last year. They had a lot of sacks, but they gave up a ton of huge plays. Well, they've reversed that, and they're not getting after the quarterback with quite the same amount of pressure, but they're also not letting guys just run free. I know it happened a couple times with Texas, but really, there were some trick plays there, and Texas is just that good. Ellinger's just that. You're going to give up some things.
Right.
Everybody, a lot of people, Texas is going to score 36 on a lot of people. That wasn't an awful performance. And this was really, really good. Look, I know Kansas State is unique within the Big 12, and you're not going to get to see this style of offense very often, so this performance doesn't necessarily translate to almost any of the other games they can play, but the way they were on the same page. It felt like film study. Right. They understood it. They knew what the plan was. They knew how to go about implementing it.
Right.
They were just all on the same page in a way that maybe I haven't seen yet in the Jim Knowles era. Some good stuff there, and I think if you just go back to what we thought of them on opening night against Oregon State, they've been a little bit better. I think at least some
Right.
key ways each week. It's been
Right.
5 weeks of progress for the most part, and that's a really good thing. That'll serve them well. This is never going to be an elite defense. They just don't have the raw material for that.
I think Oregon State's got an NFL wide receiver, too. That kid's really good.
That's a good point.
He's going to gash a lot of people.
That's a good
He
point.
made OSU look bad that
But
night.
I think this Oklahoma State defense is trending in such a way that 9 or 10 wins, it's not like it's going to be in spite of them. It could be because they've come along and really helped you become a pretty complete team.
What I would say about both Bedlam defenses at this point, now that we're a week away from the midway mark, which is crazy because I remember sitting here on opening night with you. It seemed like 15
Goes too
minutes
quick
ago.
every year,
Yeah,
man.
but the tackling is better than it was a year ago
Point.
for both sides. The coverage mistakes aren't as glaring or as frequent, and there just seems to be more energy. I mean, it's, you know, OU is what, 47th in the country in total defense now. They're like top 5 in pass pass defense.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's solid. I mean, the competition's awful. That's a heck of a
right.
segue, by the way, Bill.
That-
Jacob, go ahead
well,
and
that's-
give us our next question.
That's the qualifier. They haven't really been tested yet, but great signs of progress for both sides.
For sure. And when you talk about defense, you have to mention the Sooners' defense as well. Yesterday versus Texas Tech, allowing just 16 points. Bill, is this a breakthrough for the OU defense? Is this for real?
Yeah, they played well. They did, and I just, I wish we'd seen Alan Bowman at quarterback, just to get a real status report on the Oklahoma defense.
Those guys were not having it yesterday. Not at all.
If you're going to hold my feet to the fire, the answer is TBD, right? I mean, this is to be determined. But because of the competition, I mean, they've played probably the weakest schedule in the Big 12 and one of the very weakest in the country so far. And look, Texas Tech was even weaker than they would have been with no Bowman. That said, they've done everything you would hope to see so far. And like, what more could you ask of them at this point? They have looked explosive at times, disruptive, certainly all on the same page. As you mentioned, the tackling has been so much better.
This play right here, a save for a touchdown right here.
Sure, yeah, the effort.
That's the effort.
The effort is the most important thing.
Neville Gallimore made an unbelievable effort play yesterday.
Yeah.
Alex Grinch has been able to get these kids to do, they just, I don't know if they weren't listening to Mike anymore, if their heads were swimming, whatever it was, Grinch has cleaned up a lot of that stuff. Does it mean they're not going to get lit up like a Christmas tree against Texas in a couple weeks?
I don't think.
I'm not willing to go out on a limb for them there yet.
I don't think they're going to get lit up like a Christmas tree.
But
I don't.
I
don't.
I think Texas's offense is a little better than I expected. And to be able to put, was the 36 that they put on LSU, what was that final score? 44-38 maybe? Granted, one of those touchdowns was late. They're not as good as LSU defensively, I wouldn't think. And Texas plays well in that game. Tom Herman coaches really well in these big games. I expect Texas to be a handful for OU. But I do not expect the Sooners to be as Charmin soft as they were last year. I expect them to answer the bell, make their share of plays, and really give the offense a chance to win in a way that they just did not last year and really the last 2 years.
No, there's no doubt. OU is a more complete team this year. It's not even close. But the statistic I recited a minute ago was incorrect. OU is second. They're 27th in pass defense, which is only 100 places better than last year. So
Only.
They're 27th. I mean, but
good.
Here's where the best of the taking care of business stats to me is that OU is second in the country in third down defense.
That's
and
big.
against a soft schedule, you ought to be second in the country in third down defense. You ought to be stuffing people time and again and forcing people to punt.
Getting off
and that's
the field
what they're
is
doing.
huge.
So what they've done to this point is just kind of what they should do, right? So you're exactly right with your to be determined.
Yeah, it gets a TBD, but I mean, they've done everything you could ask of them so far. So hats off to them.
No, they're unquestionably much better than they were last year.
First time since 2013,
Listen,
November
I
of
think-
2013, that both OU and OSU held Big 12 opponents under 20 points on the same day.
There's the
First time
Gallimore
since
play.
Hey, there's my
2013.
Gallimore play.
That's the Gallimore play.
What a great hustle play for a big man, though, right?
Yes.
So I just think there's a feeling of accountability or responsibility or pressure or something, and I think it all funnels. I'm not kidding about this. I think it all funnels to Jalen Hurts. I think there is such a pronounced or profound appreciation within the program that he picked us to come play with, and we have a real responsibility to help this guy get a national championship.
And that leads to our next point. I'll say this quickly before we get to that. The last 4 years, OU's had, I think, the best offensive coordinator in the country in Lincoln Riley. Now, I think you can say they've got the best combo, offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in the country. I would take Riley and Grinch over anybody that's out there. But
Here's a goofball stat real quick, Jacob. The 2000 Sooners who won the national championship averaged 429 yards a game. That was a big offense at that time.
That's
Riley's
changed.
been in the program now 58 games, and 44 of those games they've had at least 500 yards. That used to be an outlandish total.
And it's been over 600 every game this year.
It's crazy.
429 when they won the
They're
national
averaging
title.
669 yards a game. In the 2 Heisman seasons previous, they averaged about 580.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
And only on like 65 snaps a game. The efficiency is seriously mind-blowing.
historic.
It's stupid at this point.
Crazy.
That
That's a
said,
great word. That's a great word. Stupid.
and by the way, hit me up on Twitter at Caden Mack if you haven't yet. But I went through the deficiency ratings for all of their opponents so far this year. Earlier in the year, and then futures as well. They're not going to see anybody. They're not going to see anybody who can really challenge this offense. The offense will have to have a bad day for anybody to really slow them down. TCU, by the numbers, is the best defense they'll face. I think Texas, in reality, is the best. And neither of those guys is exceptional this year. So the Sooners are going to romp until the college football playoff.
They got a 200-yard run game yesterday. They scored 4 touchdowns running the football. CeeDee Lamb had a statement or signature kind of performance. They're just in such a good place right now.
Yeah,
It's all
if
because
they
of-
make the college football playoff.
It's all because of Hurts. 485 yards of total offense, 4 total touchdowns. He has more touchdowns and throwing yards than Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray did in 2017.
How about that? Yeah.
2018
Through
through the first 4 games. So, but talk about a leadership style, though, Caden. What's the effect of Hurts' leadership style? Because it is different than Baker's and it is different than Kyler's.
Well, I'm going to leave most of this for Bill. But look, we see the video of him working out right after games.
Yeah, that'll be at the end of this clip.
To me, it's not nothing. I know that sometimes he can be a little bit, I don't want to use, I guess the
Go
word
ahead and say
squirrely. It's just a little bit difficult.
Or contrived.
There you go. Maybe but
He's Jalen Saban.
It works because the guy puts in the work, and on the field, like it's obvious he's done his homework. He's locked in. I'm going to leave most of this for you, Bill. But I could not be more impressed with this guy as a leader, and to have done this in just a few short months, it's almost unbelievable.
I'm blown away by it. I didn't know what it would look like because I was of the belief that, well, he's going to be closer to 60% than to 70% throwing the football. That was my first expectation. Well, he kind of obliterated that. But I just think he's such a unique guy. Sometimes I'll interview a college athlete and I'll think this guy seems really mature for his age. And sometimes I think this guy seems like he's 13.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts really is like, of course, he's a coach's son.
He's like interviewing a coach right now.
That's right. He's wired that way to start with. But I think there's this universal sense of responsibility throughout the program, on both sides of the program, to help this guy get a national championship. And, he seems to be a guy who isn't making party plans for the postgame. He's going to do, what do the coaches and the nutrition people and everybody say? Get some rest, go to bed at a decent hour, eat smart, take care of yourself. Jalen Hurts, to me, is just robotic in his commitment, seemingly, to doing the right things, right?
Yeah.
And I think
Look at this right here.
Look at that.
Yep.
That's post-game.
Starving.
He's still got his game pants on. That's nuts.
I'm eating it all up, man. Like you said, contrived, sure, probably, but
I'm
on the bus, man.
Right, but
I'm
not
driving this train. I'm all in. I love it.
I'm not suggesting he
Put
left.
those videos up every
He didn't
week.
leave the gym after that session and go out to the campus corner and misbehave or anything.
I'd love to know if he had that in the tank after facing SEC defenses. This was Texas Tech, by the way.
I just think he's trying to set a tone.
Yeah, he is.
He
probably did. I'm known as the Big 12 hater around here.
As a guy, though, as a leader, sometimes I just think, well, the leader of the team is whoever scores the most touchdowns. But this guy he's got leadership qualities that are unique.
Couldn't agree more. And if he gets to square off with Tua and Saban in the college football playoff, we have the best storyline there could possibly be in college football in 2019-2020.
Think about that. In consecutive years, you would have had the marriage of Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, followed by Tua versus Jalen Hurts in the college football playoff.
Be pretty
Are
good.
you kidding me? You couldn't.
pretty good.
No, and one
Talk
more
about
thing.
contrived. I mean, that sounds fake. Those storylines.
They're going to match
They're
them
so
up.
good.
If those two teams are standing in the Final Four, they're going to match them
They
up.
got a brain in their heads, they will.
I'm convinced, yeah.
For sure.
Because it'll break whatever the most watched semifinal is to this point. This one will lap that one.
For sure. And post game, when I think it was C.D. Lamb who was talking, he was asked about Jalen Hurts. He was talking about him. He said, "Yeah, Jalen has a boulder on his shoulder."
Right.
He had to catch himself because that's what the word that Jalen's been using is he's got a boulder on his shoulder. Quickly, number 24 SMU coming up next week for TU guys. Thoughts?
I went to TU's practice Thursday.
Okay.
Ooh.
I had a
tell.
Practice, Bill.
Hey, well, I mean, I had a good Thursday. I had a weird
Nice.
Thursday, but I had I wrote an OSU column in the morning, and then I raced to an elementary school to talk to Sugar Ray Leonard, which was
Yes.
fantastic.
What a day, man.
Oh, he's one of my
And for
favorite
people
athletes
who may
ever,
not
so
know, you're like the biggest boxing fan in town.
I'm probably
Which I never
maybe.
knew, and I never would have thought.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love
Loves the
boxing.
sweet science.
Yeah.
And so had a great after a couple hours with Sugar Ray, and then I thought, you know, I need to sit down somewhere and write this. I'm going to go to TU, and I can watch practice while I'm at TU. So, and
Hardest working man in the biz, people.
I needed a
serious
flat
about that.
surface and some electricity. So I mean, I knew TU would
All
have
right.
that.
So what?
But
what
they had
did
a
you
good
make?
practice, and
Okay,
I'm
good.
telling you, the collective, the energy
Uh-huh.
and the mood, and it was exactly what I thought it'd be coming off of a big victory
Yeah.
with an open date.
Okay.
And so I think the TU guys, I think they're in the best place they've been psychologically since 2016.
Well, SMU's obviously in a pretty good place too.
Oh, man.
Beat TCU a couple weeks ago, and it put 41 on them. On Gary Patterson
Yeah.
in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Come on now, that's impressive. They're 5-0 for the first time since 1984. SMU's obviously got a lot of good stuff going under Coach Dykes, but TU, with a week to prepare. 2-2, feeling good about themselves. I think probably feeling overlooked in what is a rivalry game, by the way. TU beat SMU last year in the season finale. Like, I fully expect the Golden Hurricane to really give them all they can handle. Because
Right.
I think that TU defense is equipped to slow Shane Buechele in this SMU offense. Not completely shut it down, but slow it down enough. And then it becomes, can you get to 27, 28, 31, 34 points, whatever it's going to take to maybe win in Dallas.
Well-
That game, it's the one I'm most fired up for this Saturday, for sure.
Well, I mean, if you look at the history of the series, it's no doubt that the most inexplicably squirrely outcomes have been in this series when you just can't fathom that the other side would win, and they do.
Yeah.
Either way, it's gone that way both ways. So
They're the most natural rival in the league. I mean,
Yep.
I know Houston and Tulsa have their history as well, but I really think, they're only separated by 4 hours. I think they go against
Well,
each other on a lot of recruits.
But culturally and academically,
Yeah.
they're cousins
Yeah.
at worst. At the very least, they're cousins, if not twins, in some ways. So,
And
no,
Monty's from down there in Texas. He's got to do a lot of recruiting in Texas. This one's kind of been circled in his head. I'm fired up for this ball game, and here's the thing. If you lose, well, it's an uphill climb anyway. It's going to be hard to win American games. But if you win this thing, we all begin to feel differently about TU football, and I sure hope that folks out there, casual fans, if you will, would kind of grab a hold of maybe what's going on. Because if you beat this SMU team, 5-0 for the first time since '84, man, there's reason to go out to 11th and Harvard for some of these home games down the stretch.
there's just no doubt. I mean, here's your quirky stat of the day, Jacob. Every opponent for TU this season has been undefeated. How about that?
It is a weird thing.
Isn't that weird?
And it continues in
And
October.
hey, we're almost at mid-season, and
Continues
every opponent
into
they have
October.
faced
That's weird.
has been
Hey,
unbeaten.
so one of the semifinal games this year is in Atlanta, correct? So if we get that Alabama-OU matchup for the second straight time in a semifinal, Alabama just overtook Clemson in the AP poll. If that remains the case, and that's going to be huge, right? Who's one and who's two.
Oh, yeah.
If those teams remain unbeaten, because somebody gets to go to Atlanta and probably draw OU or Ohio State with them, and somebody doesn't. So be
Little home
watching those
court.
polls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going
For
to be
sure.
fun.
Speaking of which, we have Thunder tomorrow, don't we? Isn't that
We have
crazy?
Thunder Media Day, and the Dallas Cowboys have just crossed the goal line for the first time tonight.
Ooh.
We have a tied game in New Orleans at 9-9 extra point.
I'm sure
pending.
the
Zeke got in for my fantasy
I'm
team.
sure the timekeeper will try to screw that up somehow.
Taking shots at the timekeeper, Bill.
Hey,
Collins
you
got
saw the end of the half.
I saw it. It's
You know,
okay.
you're a Cowboys fan. You'll appreciate this. My brother was going through
I'm
like
a Cowboy
old stuff
historian.
in a box.
I'm not a
Historian?
fan
Oh,
anymore
I'm
so
sorry.
much.
Okay,
but go ahead.
there you go. He found a super, like it had the 95 Super Bowl logo, the year Barry Switzer won it all, Deion Sanders jersey, the blue one.
Mm-hmm.
He was rocking it. They felt pretty good because in the 90s, Jacob, we all wore jerseys and shirts like 3 sizes too big, so it still fits him, even though he's gained 40 pounds since he was 16. It still
Right.
fits. Hopefully he's watching.
Right.
Looking good in that Deion jersey.
Yeah, you guys are nuts. We got to go watch some football.
Yeah.
Coming up at 10 o'clock tonight on
Took only
KJRH.
Who scored for Dallas? I didn't see the play.
Zeke.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jacob.
No, it's okay. I was just going to tease my sportscast. But
okay.
It's okay.
All right.
No worries.
Hey,
Hear
you
from
wear
Jalen
a
Hurts.
collar and then you can tease things, all right? Wear a collar, buddy.
I am best dressed at this station, by the way. So I'll put that out there. Just not on this program.
Is that an award?
It's okay. I'm making it an award. Yeah, we'll hear from Jalen Hurts tonight at 10. Bill, thanks for coming in as always. Hayden,
Thank you, guys.
see you tomorrow.